What's up, everybody, and welcome to Flying with Doug. Great to have you guys back. The Dayton Flyers 74-53 over New Mexico State. Uh, Dayton pulls away in the second half. A much, much better effort on both ends of the floor. Uh, Up one at halftime, and then Flyers win the second half 45-25. Just night and day difference. Night and day difference between the two halves. And that's going to be a big talking point for tonight. But first things first, hopefully Jacob Connor is okay. I hope that was more of a precautionary holding him out of the second half. I don't think he returned to the bench. He rolled his ankle going into halftime. Jacob Connor has been a very, very good role player for the Flyers this year. So I'm really hopeful that he can recover and be ready to go on Monday when we travel to Maui to take on North Carolina. He's just a really important guy. Simon, I think, stepped in, and I think he could potentially be a guy who could guard a forward for a couple minutes here and there. I do think he has that ability and that physical strength, but on offense, he's still quite a bit of a question mark. So I can understand why the staff wouldn't want to go with him for too long. But I do think he held up well tonight. And New Mexico State, if you look at it, yeah, they had a top 20 defense. Yes, they, did a great job holding teams under like 33% shooting. But, they played a team that doesn't have a legitimate name. They played Utah Tech and they played Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So I feel like some of these things were inflated and they were made to be selling points for the game tonight. And in reality, New Mexico is a okay basketball team in Conference USA. Hopefully they can compete for, a Conference USA title. They've got Jordy's two brothers, so, low key rooting for them, but it felt like Dayton definitely in the first half didn't show up ready to go. Kind of walked through the first half. I think the biggest lead the first half was probably 10, I believe, and then even if that, it was 10. Second half, completely different team. Nate Santos, shout out. I've felt like he hasn't really hit his stride this season. And that second half, he was absolutely on fire. I think he ended up with, 5 or 6 threes. 6 threes tonight. Shot 60% from the three-point line. He shot 50% from the free throw line. We will touch on free throws. 23 points, 8 rebounds, an assist. Nate Santos, player of the game for me tonight because of that second half, and Dayton needed all of it from Nate Santos in that second half to really pull away and extend that game where it was no longer in question. Next thing I want to talk about, foul trouble. Foul trouble for Malachi Smith. If today is any indication of how Dayton is going to play when Malachi Smith is in foul trouble potentially, or anything injured, anything. I don't want to go. That's not what I'm trying to do. But there was a massive drop off in the energy of the team in that first half when Malachi Smith was on the bench. I understand there being a drop off because of how good Malachi Smith is and how great of a floor general he is. But to me, there has to be a level of maintain while your lead guard is out. There has to be you're going to drop down a little bit, but there has to be a baseline level where, hey, we're not going to let New Mexico back in this game. We're not going to do that. Yeah, Malachi Smith has the 3 fouls or the 2 fouls, but we're going to keep it here and we're going to keep battling and keep it at least close to the same as when he left. Yeah, it wasn't a great statistical night because of the minutes for Malachi Smith. 4 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. He and then shot 2 of 3. Didn't take a lot of shots tonight. So definitely something to watch there for the team. Who's going to step up? Posh Alexander, I thought, tried to step up. I thought this was his best game to date as a Dayton Flyer. It felt like he was ready to attack. It felt like he wasn't, tentative at all in the offense. 5 points tonight, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. That's what we came to expect watching Posh Alexander play in the Big East. He is a stat sheet stuffer. It's always a couple, almost 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 or 6 assists. And that's what we need from him going forward. So, like I said, 5 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. He had a block, had a couple tough drives where, it didn't fall, but he was getting to the rim, and then he had it knocked down a 3. That really helped. Let's talk about it because it's glaring. It ended up not being as bad as it was, but there is a definite issue when it comes to the free throw line for the Dayton Flyers. Tonight, it ended up 10 of 18. They shot 55%. Yeah, it got better, though. Like, at one point, they were 0 of 8 or 2 of 8 from the free throw line. On the season, they are shooting 63%, guys. 63% from the free throw line. That is simply not good enough on a consistent basis. And I don't know why, but it's felt like an issue with AG teams since the beginning. And I feel like there's got to be something. There's got to be maybe an overcorrection. Something has to swing back the other way where this team is knocking down free throws consistently, because I'm telling you, Zed Key drew 10 fouls tonight. 10 fouls. We're going to have to do this against North Carolina. We're going to have to do this against these teams in Maui. It's going to have to happen all season. But we have to have these points, 8 more points, or, in that first half. If Dayton shot 75%, you add 4 more points to the first half total. Yeah, they're leading the score by 5, but you don't feel like it was as bad in the first half. The free throw, missing free throws makes a semi-bad half feel like a really bad half. And I think everybody can kind of agree with that. The free throw shooting was not great. Shout out to Bayer with me. Don't say it. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Shout out to Jordan. He was at the game tonight. Slow start in the first half. Bad communication offensively. I think we definitely saw some of that. And then in the second half, it was corrected, and there was a much more focused effort on the game. Last couple thoughts on the game, because it did end up being a blowout. It did end up being a runaway win for the Flyers, a 21-point victory. It's going to be interesting. Maui is going to be very, very interesting. The team plays Monday night against UConn. I would love to know how people feel about going into this game. Do I think Dayton can compete with UConn and with some of these teams? I think they can compete with them. I think it's going to take more than what we've seen so far to beat a team like that. And that's where I'm, yes, New Mexico State, they ended up pulling away 21 points. But we haven't really seen a full game from Dayton this year. It's been spurts and it's been halves. And then, Dayton in the first half, really bad offense, kind of just dragging their feet. Shots weren't going down, free throw misses. Second half, shots are going down. They're knocking down the open ones. Nate Santos gets hot. You get to see what Dayton could be. Pressure, turnovers, forcing the guards on the other team to speed up, blocking shots, all those things. But are we ever going to get to see that for a full half? To me, it's going to take a full half of that style of basketball, knocking down shots, getting to the free throw line, making your free throws, pressuring the guards, making North Carolina or somebody else's guards turn the ball over. I don't have a lot of faith based on what we've seen that Dayton can put 2 good, almost great halves of basketball together. And that's an issue, because playing against good teams, Power 5, Power 4, whatever it is now, teams, yeah, it's going to take a full game of basketball to beat these teams. And that worries me. I think that probably worries everybody. I would assume, people probably aren't as vocal or, roller coaster of emotions like I am. That's fine. I get that. I live with my emotions on my sleeve. So let's talk about and transition into the Maui Invitational. I'm going to pull up the graphic here. Obviously, everybody's seen this, but let's get it pulled up here. Share. Okay, let's talk about this, guys. We've talked about it earlier in the year. Auburn, Colorado, Dayton, Iowa State, Memphis, Michigan State, North Carolina, UConn, one of the most stacked groups that we've seen. Incredible stuff. the bracket, when you look at it, it is also, it's going to be a difficult ride. It is going to be a difficult ride. First game, we obviously play North Carolina. How do people feel about North Carolina? I watched them a couple times. I think North Carolina is a good team. They have an All-American quality guard. They are long. They are athletic, extremely, extremely, extremely athletic. That could be an issue for Dayton. While Dayton does have good athletes, I would not say as a full team, besides Enoch Cheeks, I don't think we have anybody who's a fantastic athlete. So to me, that's kind of going to be an issue. Oh, well, I got the wrong one. Where is the correct bracket? Why am I struggling to find the correct bracket? Oh, well. We know we have the first game against UNC. There it is. And then if Dayton wins, they've got Iowa State or Auburn. That's going to be an interesting one. Or if Dayton wins, they've got Iowa State or Auburn. Either way, that's a tough second game. Auburn, extremely talented. That's a team that gets up and down and scores a lot of points. A team that I'm personally worried about playing is a good Auburn team like that, because I think they would give our guards a lot of problems. I'm not sure how other people feel about that, but so Dayton, North Carolina, winner of Auburn and Iowa State. Then we've got Michigan State versus Colorado, UConn versus Memphis. Dayton plays the 11:30 game. That's going to be a late night, guys. That is going to be a late night. But I think what Dayton has to do to win this North Carolina game, you have to find a way to limit the guard play from North Carolina. You have to find a way to slow them down. You cannot give easy shots up to the North Carolina guards. North Carolina, when I watched them, it felt like when their offense was slowed down in the first half against American, it felt like that was because the guards were not playing out. They were not playing, with pace. So you have to slow them down. You have to make the guards work. RJ Davis is a phenomenal scorer. Seth Trimble is a good shooter. Elliot Cadeau, another good scorer. The bigs, I think the big guys, Zed Key is going to be okay in his matchup. Nate Santos is going to be solid in his matchup. But matching up with these three guards is going to be where Dayton has to win this game. Right now, RJ Davis is averaging 17, almost 18 points a game, almost 5 assists. He is only shooting 32%. And that's where you've got to force him into taking bad shots. RJ Davis will take bad shots. That's what you have to worry about. I would assume Enoch Cheeks will be on RJ Davis. Seth Trimble, he's a 6'3 guard. He averages 16 a game. He is a much better shooter. He's shooting 50% from the field. I believe he's shooting right around, let me get it pulled up here. I believe he's shooting 55% from three this year on 3 attempts a game. I would assume Malachi Smith is going to be guarding him and making him work. You've got to make him work off the ball and not give him open shots. You have to contest everything. And then it's going to be interesting here. Javon Bennett will be the other guard. Elliot Cadeau, you probably say it differently. He is 6'1". He's a smaller guard, so I would assume Javon Bennett will be on him. He also averages 16 points a game. He averages almost 8 assists a game. He is their main distributor. Javon Bennett, I would assume, will be guarding him to start the game. He's shooting 40% from 3, 48 from the field. A really, really good player. Averages almost 3 steals a game. The ball control, the turning over, Dayton's guards have to be on top of their game. You cannot give North Carolina easy possessions. They are too good of a team to give extra possessions, and their guards will get after you. They are good defensively. The big men for North Carolina, they got a 6'10" junior, Jalen Washington. He's a solid player. He averages 11 points a game, 5 rebounds, scores very efficiently around the basket. A very, very efficient scorer. He's a guy who I think Zed Key can hopefully muscle around a little bit, or, and probably hopefully draw a couple fouls on. And then Withers is their other big that they start. He is a 6'9" senior. He's going to probably be matched up with Nate Santos. He averages 9 points, 9 rebounds. Another guy who's solid around the basket. And he can actually step out and knock down threes. So watch out for that also, Flyer fans. And then you look at their bench, and that's where it kind of gets interesting here. They got Cade Tyson, who comes off the bench. Drake Powell, who comes off the bench, who's a big. He's 6'6", but he plays bigger than he is. He averages 5 points. He averages 6 rebounds. He does not shoot the ball well, but he is a good rebounder for his size. He is a freshman. And then Cade Tyson, also off the bench, a guy who wants to shoot a lot of threes. Watch out for him. He scored 11 against American. He is a guy who's probably not going to get a ton of burn, but watch out for him off the bench also. Overall, North Carolina, they're the number 10 team in the country. If you watch their game against Kansas, they are very talented. They straight up, they are a very, very talented team. They pushed Kansas, number 1 Kansas, to the brink. They outscored Kansas 51-39 in that second half. They are a good team. You have to play a full game against this North Carolina team, or Dayton will get blown out, flat out. Dayton will get blown out in this game if they do not play a full 40 minutes. That's how good North Carolina is, and the inconsistencies of Dayton make me think that it is a possibility. This game is either going to be a very, very close couple possession game, or in my opinion, North Carolina beats Dayton by 15 or so points. There's no make or break in this. And Dayton has a history of playing very well in the Maui and punching up against their opponents. Dayton does a great job against Power 4 teams and above. And that's what's going to have to be again. They are going to have to show up in a massive, massive way against a very talented team. If they can do that, you get a date with Iowa State or Auburn. I think Auburn probably wins that game. So more than likely, and this is just being honest, and guys, I'm going to be an emotional wreck watching that Dayton, North Carolina game. More than likely, Dayton will be playing the loser of all Iowa State and Auburn. That's a great second round game. A great second round game. And then you get potentially Memphis, you get Michigan State, you get one of those teams in the 5th place game. That still is a good weekend if you can get out there and get to the 5th place game. This bracket's set up to get North Carolina versus UConn. Dayton can play spoiler in that. When Dayton is rolling, they are good enough to play with North Carolina. Flat out, plain and simple. But it takes a while for Dayton to get rolling, unfortunately, or stay in a consistent spot of playing good basketball. It's going to take 40 minutes to beat North Carolina on Monday night. I'm really excited about the Maui Invitational. There's a lot of good basketball teams. We're going to get to watch a lot of good basketball this next week. So, in my opinion, guys, I would say Dayton probably. Quick shout out, Greg Elking. Any word on Connor? Not that I've seen. And usually Dayton is very close to the vest with their injury information. So I wouldn't expect anything concrete. Usually we get some rumors circling in and out. We'll hopefully hear something tomorrow. Hopefully it was precautionary. Like I said at the beginning of the show, hopefully he's okay. But, let's talk about him again. Jacob Connor, great role player, a guy who Dayton can rely on for good minutes when he comes in. A guy I think they're going to need in that North Carolina game on Monday night. So hopefully he's good. Hopefully it's just an ankle roll or something like that, and he's able to recuperate and for these next couple of days, and he's hopefully able to show up and give Dayton good minutes this coming week. So, to recap everything here, Dayton beats New Mexico State by 21 tonight. Second half, night and day better. Night and day. That's the second half. We have to have that Nate Santos show up from the opening tip Monday night. Zed Key has to be as good as he has been all year. He's got to be blocking shots. He's got to be affecting shots. He's got to be boxing out. He's got to be rebounding. Malachi Smith, he's got a big game against North Carolina. This is a national stage where Malachi Smith kind of made his name, a few years ago. He was good. He was good in that. I think it was his freshman year where we played the Maui, I might be misremembering, but I believe he played well in that Maui. I'm not going to go back and look. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember an early season tournament, Malachi Smith playing well early in his career. Enoch Cheeks, another opportunity for Enoch Cheeks to show his ability on the big stage. He's been our best player to start the year. Great opportunity against North Carolina and RJ Davis to show up and show out and put his name on the national stage again. And then you got Javon Bennett. He's got a great matchup. Posh Alexander off the bench has got a big-time matchup. I expect Posh Alexander to play a lot of minutes this Monday night because of just how good the North Carolina guards are, and he is a lockdown defender in his own right. So it's going to be fun, guys. Big game for Dayton. If they don't beat North Carolina, it is not the end of the world. It is not the end of the world. They've got another opportunity to play against Auburn or Iowa State, and then they've got another game after that. There are so many good opportunities to get resume building wins in this tournament. I'm excited, guys. Dayton pulls out the Maui played well against Kansas in Maui. There it was. Thank you. I appreciate that. I couldn't remember exactly where it was, but I just remember him playing in an early season tournament and playing well, and that's where it was. So Dayton beats New Mexico State as expected. Now we prepare for Maui, North Carolina, game 1. Cannot wait. 11:30. It's going to be late. We're not going to do a show that night. We'll probably do a show the next day, hopefully to recap the game. I'm going to be tired at work the next day, but I will be up and I will be cheering my ass off for these Dayton Flyers. It's going to be big. You got to show up. 2 halves of basketball, guys. That is what we have to look forward. 2 halves of basketball. 199 live viewers tonight. Thank you to every single one of you guys for tuning in tonight. If you do listen to the show on audio, please leave a review. It helps me out. At some point, we'd like to get a sponsor on Flying with Doug. That would be huge. So if you know anybody, I'm not expensive. I would love just to shout out anybody, help anybody with whatever I can. We'd love to have a sponsor on the show. So if you know anybody, let me know. And this has been Flying with Doug. Go Flyers. We will see you guys next week.